All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and get started. Maybe there'll be a few more people tuning in here shortly. So, well, welcome to another live stream journaling session. Of course, I'm Eric Scott, and like I've been doing over the last few weeks, been working in a little journal. And if you want to work along, awesome. If you want to pop into the comments and say hi, or if you have questions or other comments, pop them in there as well. So yeah, so I've been working in this journal. A lot of you have been tuning in uh, for quite a while now and have kind of seen this little journal evolve. And it's been kind of interesting for me to kind of do that, to work in that way, because it's like I naturally, when I work in the big book, it evolves slowly, but I don't take that much notice in it, and it also does it in a different way. So with this book, I've been really focusing on making it flow, making it that visual narrative, making sure that pages relate to one another as it goes throughout. So it's a completely different way for me to work. So, but welcome back. And like I said, if you want to pop into the comments and say hi, if you want to let us know where you're tuning in from, that's always great. And if you have any questions or comments, make sure that you pop them in, and I'll try to respond as I'm working. But today, I'm going to work. I think I'm going to work a little bit more with words today, and I've been kind of looking through the book a little bit before I got on today, and trying to like I want to wrap it up. Basically, is what it is, and I was kind of there's a couple parts where I was getting a little bit hung up with the words, and so I'm trying to like work through that, and just starting to feel like the pages are getting pretty well resolved. And of course, there's always more that I can add, and but yeah, I just want to kind of work with that, and then we'll kind of see where it goes. I don't know how long that will take. I don't know exactly how far I'll get into working with the words and kind of making some sort of written narrative, because that's the thing. It's like I've been focusing so much on the visual narrative that the written narrative isn't quite there yet. So anyway, let me go ahead and switch it over, and I'll dive in. So this is that little Stillman and Byrne book, 3.5 inches wide, 5.5 inches long. And I like this little space. It's so different than working in the big 11 by 14 inch book. But like I was saying, I was flipping through, so I have written words. First of all, I have a thread from some tracing paper that I wrote on like the very first week way back in May, whenever I was doing this, or one of the first few times I did it anyway. And I wrote on it and I glued it in. And so there's this like thread of text that goes through that you can see in some places and read in others. But and then there's this other text that I've added. So far I am breaking apart, revealing habits of thought. Even though there's text there, I just highlighted that so that really kind of pops out. I imagine, investigate, embrace the unknown, and ask new directions. And that's kind of where I like stop, because when I turn this here, I have the word balance. And so I'm not really sure. I was thinking about like, and ask new directions and balance. I kind of feel like I want to put the number 4 in here somewhere, just like, and ask for new directions and balance. And so put an ampersand or the word and up in here. I have to be careful because I have a packing tape transfer, so it's a little shiny. Can't really write on top of that. But so yeah, so even though people might not read it like that, to me, it just kind of, I wanted to make some kind of sense like that. So I think I am going to put the number 4 there, and then put an ampersand or the word and there. So I'll go ahead and start with that. I'm thinking I want to do a number stencil. So this is on top of my pile of stencils I have. So yeah, so I'm thinking up here, And I've just got some pens today. I might break out other materials, but I think the pens are a good place to start. I kind of think that if I were doing this again, I mean, I've never done a journal like this. I know some folks have, they always have some kind of like big major theme for their books. And I've never done that. I mean, all the journaling I've done, and I've got 20, 30 volumes of visual journals, have always been more of a daily journal, kind of, this is sort of what I'm thinking, this is what I'm doing, these are the places that I'm going. And this journal was all about that theme, emergence. And so being very different than the way I typically work, it's like I've had to figure out how to work in it. And so anyway, that number 4 is done. It's a little bit hard to see, but maybe I'll come back and maybe I'll highlight it, or maybe I'll just leave it like that. Sometimes, I mean, with this ampersand here, I painted around it to make it pop out, but maybe that just kind of gets left there. And then on to here, like I said, I'm going to do, or not here. It was, where was that? Oh, did I skip it? New directions. Oh yeah, the ampersand one here. That's what it was. Yeah, but like I was saying, it's like trying to figure out a new way of working with this. And so if I had to do it again, if I did it again, and who knows, maybe I will, I might, sorry, I'm just kind of digging through stencils over here off to the side. I might, sorry, trying to talk and think about what I'm doing is a little bit difficult. So if I were to do it again, I might go about it a different way. And what I mean by that is that I might sit down and do some writing first before I even put any kind of paint or anything to the paper. And I actually have something in mind. I want to do, I really have gotten into the idea of zines, Z-I-N-E, zines. And if you're not familiar with zines, they're basically just little books. And there's lots of different ways of making them. But I even taught an entire class, online workshop, last year or this past year on it, and did like small books because it was inspired by this book. And Alicia says that she's obsessed with zines. Yeah, and it's just, the nice thing is that zines can be even smaller than this. I mean, I think back to like when zines first came about, and it really was a lot just people like cutting and pasting stuff and then like making photocopies. And it was really just kind of a like rough and ready. And this was like really before computers were used for everything. And so things were physically cut and pasted together, and you photocopy it, and then you pass them out or sell them or whatever. And sometimes they were like little books that were stapled together. And then now what's become really popular, especially I think about Austin Kleon, and he has sorry, I'm trying to think. He does little zines, and there's a couple different approaches where you could use a single sheet of paper. So anyway, but I was saying that with the zines, I have this idea that I want to work with one. But anyway, so back to this. So here's where I'm running into problems. So this was sort of a trouble section. So, and ask for new directions and balance. And I think that's like the end of the thought. And then here, maybe nothing has to be there, but then I have shadow escaping. and then I have the word legacy. And so I don't know how to link that yet. And that's why I'm thinking maybe there has to be something here that creates a thought that starts here, goes through shadow escaping into legacy. Not sure, really sure yet. So I'm going to kind of skip over that. And then I'm going to come back to, I want to come to this. So I have this list. This is some words that I came up with as I was working in the journal, and I just glued them in as a list. And so now what I'm thinking about is that emerge, create, process. So I'm thinking that I want it to be a sentence, like, so I think the word the letter I can just go over here somewhere. I'm thinking it might be interesting if it was on her, like I emerge from something and create something, maybe create something, and then process is like the last bit of that sentence or whatever, because then I get into this section here where the word stardust, and then I have all these words, and so this is another part where I'm like, I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with it. So, but anyway, I think that's where I'm going to go with this. I hope this is making sense, because I'm just sort of like sharing my thoughts and really trying to link stuff together. So I'm gonna grab this stencil here. It's a little bit bigger than the one I have. And now she's a cutout from a glossy magazine. So I'm gonna use my gel pens and because I know that it should. These gel pens are pretty good on glossy surfaces. Yeah, so I have this idea, like I want to do some zines, and that are kind of based on um, this little book, or at least ideas from it. Maybe that idea of emergence. And so thinking about how I might take the lessons learned from this book and use them in a little zine. So I might sit down and write something out, like actually have the written narrative worked out before I actually start. Okay, so it's going to take a while for that ink to dry. So I think I'm going to hit it with the hair dryer just to speed it up. That stands out. Oh, grab the wrong pen. That stands out pretty well, but I'm going to take my black pen and create an outline. And so this is a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen, kind of my go-to pens here lately. And it draws pretty well on top of the magazine. But because it's glossy, it will take it a moment or two to dry. Okay. So anyway, so there's the word I. Yeah, so that was the white gel pen was a Uniball Signo pen. Alicia had asked in the comments there. So I emerge. So I'm trying to think. I emerge. I just keep thinking like I emerge from the darkness. I don't know. I don't know if that's too too melodramatic. Oh well, it's going in. And I think I want the, and create. I emerge from the, oop, see, oh, I emerge from darkness and create a new process for living. That's just kind of popping in my head. All right, so even though I've got like that strip of words that goes through, it really, uh, I don't really care if people read it because it does get kind of covered up and um, changed up and hard to read and obscured and cut up. Even though I cut it and glued it in order that I wrote it, so if you could read it all, it would kind of have this thread of thought. So I like that idea of a thread of thought. And then I've got that red line, that red thread that goes through it as well. So like I said, this is kind of where that stardust is. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with this yet. So anyway, so now I come to this section. And again, I just have a list of words that popped in my head as I was working. And this notion of uncovering, discovering, recovering. But then I randomly glued in the strips. So it came around, and then I like insight. So uncovering, discovering, recovering, insight. I like that. So I think I want the words I am on here. So I think that just no question of like, how big do I want that? Flip through my stencils over here. I just pulled out a different style. So this is a Helvetica font, and then I use a lot of, this is Roman font. So I kind of think I want to use a different kind of font. So that gets a little bit lost in the background, and I do want to kind of bring that out a little bit. So I'm thinking of using my water soluble pencils, my Inktense pencils. Just kind of thinking what color. So like a lot of things, I like to have kind of work into the negative space. So if I make it darker around it, that should help it pop up. I do have this really dark line here where through the A, so I might do something to change that or work with that. I'm thinking, let's try something different. I was thinking like, oh, I could go like really dark. But what if I just went with something brighter? What we got here? There's tangerine, but I have an orange that I like. Cadmium orange, there we go. Sorry, I need to sharpen it. So I'm not sure how much this is going to make this stand out. mean, just shading it in, it doesn't, coloring in around it doesn't really make it pop out, but we'll see. So sometimes it's possible to create contrast, not by value, the darkness and lightness of something, but you can create the contrast by the color of something, that when things are very different colors. So again, I don't know how much that really stands out. But that orange gives that section of the spread kind of a bit of a glow. There's something I'm going to do to kind of help kind of tone down. The M really pops out just because it's very even inside, whereas the A still is disappearing because of that really dark line. And then even on the I has a dark line, not quite as dark as the A there, but it's still is kind of getting a little bit lost. So I'm going to turn back to my pencils. I have a white, and this is something I don't use a lot because it's not super opaque, but it's opaque enough that sometimes it's good to sort of kind of obscure what's underneath. And so just by shading it on, it kind of starts to cover up what's underneath a little bit. And so all of a sudden that letter I just became a little bit more solid. And so let me do it over here. So, started doing it right down here. Maybe you can see how that side of the A starts to pop out. And then as I move over, just to kind of helps solidify things so it doesn't completely cover. So there you can probably see it a little bit better, depending on how big you have the image set, the video set. So you can see that A pops out a little bit more. It's probably not going to do much with the M since the M's already pretty light. So I am going to, it is a water-soluble pencil. I'm going to use the brush and just activate it. Kind of putting the water on it kind of made it fade a little bit. It's not as quite as opaque. However, So in this set, it has the same white. So if I take a thinner brush, I can get a lot of the pigment on it. What I like about this is that it doesn't completely cover up what's underneath, but it lightens it all, kind of makes it look cloudy. I mean, if I wanted to be completely opaque, I could use something like acrylic paint, or I could use my gel pen. Okay, hit that with my hair dryer. So as that white dries, it becomes a little bit more opaque. So anyway, so that's kind of an interesting effect. All right. So I am uncovering, discovering, recovering insight. And I want something in here. Insight, I think into who I am maybe is. Just thinking it might be interesting to leave, again, it has the words on the tracing paper going through. So maybe that stays, maybe discovering insight, and then maybe I put in and then to here, and then I can go across. Yeah, I kind of like that idea. This is all handwritten, so I feel like I want to use the stencils again. And just had a thought after I picked it up. I was like, oh, what if I colored it in? So I'm just going to take my pen and just kind of scribble. I'm not going to color the whole thing in, just make it look a little bit scribbly, leaving little spaces that aren't colored in. I like how that plays on that. The nice thing is with this cicada image transfer, that was done with the solvent. And so I can just draw right over top of it. And it's not like the packing tape where you can't really draw on top of the packing tape. Okay. So I had a thought like, I want to do I am again. So into who I am. Again, grammatically, that's not really correct. It should be whom. I don't know. But going back to this, I am. So I thought it might be interesting to use the same stencil and to do I am. Maybe down here, I kind of feel like just to have a little bit of mirroring, repetition. I'm even going to use the same colored pen. Sounds like my wife's home. Don't need a doorbell when you got dogs. Little barky dogs, that is. Okay, so I think I'm going to do something similar to what I did before, but I'm going to use a different color. Need to sharpen my pencil. So this is a deep indigo. It's a really dark blue. So that should really make the letters pop out. One thing is I don't need a whole lot of this color. I know it's going to spread a lot, and also the rest of it's not super dark, so just a little bit of this pencil is going to help make that pop. And I think I'll do the same thing as I did before, put some of that white in on top. I think I'll go ahead and dry that. I think I'll just use the paint this time and not use the pencil and see how that works. One thing with this little part here, it probably doesn't need as much of the white as it did on the other page that I did. Okay, so that kind of pops out. Go ahead and dry it. Okay, so I'm not really sure about the rest of the pages. I'm getting closer to the end. So I like these areas where there's highlighted text from the writing I had done. So I try to work that in, but like here where there's the text from the sort of the found poetry thing I did. I don't know, it's I don't know if that gets worked into what I want to write, but yeah, so I'll probably have to sit down and figure out what I want to do. Maybe I was just kind of thinking, there's those couple places where I did some lists. So maybe on here, maybe there can be a list of something, or over here. Not really sure, but I think that's something to kind of think about. And I'm not going to get into it today, is basically what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I think that's starting to get a better sense of the narrative. Like I said, there's a couple spaces like here where I'm not quite sure what the narrative is, and then here, but it's something that I can kind of think about and ponder as I kind of move forward. So I don't know how much longer I'll be working in this little book, but probably a few more weeks. Trying to think about, like, okay, I'm going to try to finish up the narrative, the written narrative part. The visual narrative is pretty good, pretty well set. I think it's just more about kind of embellishing and resolving some of the spreads and kind of making it feel kind of complete. The biggest challenge I think is to make the end of the book feel as resolved as the beginning of the book, because the sorry, got a little bit like my train of thought derailed. But yeah, because the front of the book I've had a lot more time to work on, so I always kind of go back and look at it, and I've added more and more. So trying to make the end of the book feel that way. I know in my big journals that's a big thing, because I, even though I jump around a lot, the beginning pages get worked on a lot because there's just more time there. And so so what happens in the big book a lot of times is I'll really work a lot in the beginning of the book and put a lot of stuff in, and those spreads and pages feel really resolved. But then near the back of the book, they don't get so resolved, because what happens is I end up transitioning to a new book, and then I carry both books around, but then there just becomes a time where I'm like, I don't get the old book out. So that's going to be a challenge, I think, for this book kind of moving forward, is how to make the end of the book feel like the beginning of the book. I have a good start on that with all the visual stuff that I've been doing, all the stuff that I've been trying to repeat from the beginning to the end, but then bringing that level of resolution, of polish to the end. So anyway, that's just some of my thoughts about that. So I appreciate you tuning in. And like I said, if you have any thoughts or any questions or any comments, pop them in. I try to respond either during the live stream, or if this is on YouTube, I try to sit down and look at comments every now and then. But yeah, so if you got a question, ask away if you want to see something particular. But anyway, appreciate you being here, and thanks for tuning in. And as always, happy creating.